Let's talk about some defensive standout players from last week's game against the Chicago Bears, then look at an overview of must-watch players for tomorrow's game against the Washington Redbeards, and then talk about some tough position battles to look for as well, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? What's up, guys? My name is Cole, aka the newly full-timing Redbeard Shining Keeper of the Kingdom, or sometimes known as the Red-Bearded Wolf of the Chiefs side mascot, whatever that means, and I do daily news about the Kansas City Chiefs, so make sure to sub if you haven't already, because this is the place to be. Hit that like button if you're ready for preseason game numero dos tomorrow. And let's get into this video, because something I wasn't able to do yet was give some thoughts on the defensive side of the ball from last week's preseason game against the Bears. So I want to touch on some standout players and plays from the defense. I did a full video earlier this week covering the offense already. And then I want to highlight some players from both sides of the ball to watch for in tomorrow's game. As far as standouts from the Bears game, let's look at the first defensive series with the starters. Justin Reid had a great read. You like that on the first play, coming down from the secondary to make a solid tackle for only 2 or so yards permitted. And then on the next play, Justin Reid actually blitzed the QB, though it was a run, and he wasn't able to make a play on the ball. But have no fear, because Willie Gay was here, making a great stop for a mere 2-yard gain. Then on the next play, Chris Jones plowed through the line like he was their majority owner and took Fields down to the field. And the best part about this was when he got up, he pushed the offensive lineman's head down using his helmet as a prop to help himself up. That little savage. So a quick 3-and-out led to a punt in which Trent McDuffie received and got absolutely clobbered after about 10 yards. So please, for the love of all things that are good, Uncle Dave, do not use the team's starting cornerback for punts anymore, because we need this man. Anyway, on the next defensive series, I noticed Nick Bolton made a great break through the line, though the running back was able to split out wide, avoiding Bolton. The next play, as Justin Fields was scrambling to the right, Frank Clark looked like he was shot out of a cannon, quickly getting pressure on Fields. And a couple plays later, Willie Gay had another nice penetration and was able to disrupt a run for a very minimal game. And then Tershawn Wharton got a hand on the ball on a 3rd and 10, which was a great play from Turk. And some of my standout players from the first team in this game were Trent McDuffie. Why? Because you literally never heard from this man, which means coverage was nice and the ball wasn't thrown his way much because they were little scared babies. Willie Gay is next, who made multiple nice plays, stopping 2 runs for very short gains. Chris Jones for that sack on 3rd down, a lovely one. Frank Clark mainly for his quickness that I noticed when he was on the field. And Justin Reid, who showed great awareness very early in the game for the limited time that he played. And he made a PAT, I might add, after a touchdown. Can't forget that. From here, though, let's talk more highlights and standouts from the rest of the game. Near the end of the first quarter, Brian Cook destroyed number 83 on a punt return, taking his legs out from under him and basically making him do a backflip. A great freaking tackle, one of many to follow in the future, I assure you. George Karlaftis had a few great plays, including 2 QB hits, a sack, a tackle for loss, and I believe he was able to disrupt the pocket a few times on top of that as well. He seemed to get more comfortable as time went on, and honestly, he's one of the defensive guys I'm most excited to see play tomorrow. Taylor Stallworth had a solid few plays, including this nice T for L, and he also made another nice tackle later when the QB attempted to scramble up the middle that I believe counted as a half of a sack for Stallworth. Colin Saunders had a huge tackle for loss as well, causing the center to literally fall over as he passed him by. Cornerback Jalen Watson had a couple really nice tackles, a pass breakup, but also gave up a pretty big play after taking a bad angle. But overall, I thought he did pretty well. It was his first NFL game, okay? And he's one that I will definitely be having my pupils on tomorrow. Safety Deion Bush had a couple nice tackles, but gave up a pretty big TD. I saw Matt Dickerson penetrate the line a couple times, as well as defensive end Azur Kamara, number 93. He had a very solid 3-play stretch in the fourth quarter that I noted, where on one play he appeared to deflect or nearly deflect a pass, then almost sacked the QB on the next, and finally tackled the running back the very next play. He got hurt somewhat on that play. I don't think it was anything serious, but either way, those were 3 plays in a row from that man. Kamara is from the University of Kansas. That's where he went to college and joined the Chiefs July 26, playing for the Cowboys last season. You may remember him from HBO Hard Knocks or whatever that show is, but yeah, standout player for me in the fourth quarter. Linebacker Jack Cochran had a great tackle in the third quarter. Cornerback Caprio Boodle gave up a big play, and safety Nazir Greer had a nice blitzing sack. Another standout would be linebacker Leo Chanel, who had 7 tackles, leading the team in tackles and also in T4Ls with 2. Overall, I was impressed with some and feel pretty good about a lot of our young draft picks. And here's who I'm going to be watching for, and you should be watching for as well during tomorrow's game against the Washington Redbeards, which, by the way, will mark the 38th annual Chiefs charity game. Since its inception in 1985 and through the vision of Lamar Hunt and the Hunt family, the Chiefs charity game has raised more than $15 million for local charities that support children in need. And for the second consecutive season, the 2022 Chiefs charity game will benefit MOXA, which is the Metropolitan Organization to Counter Sexual Assault. So I found that noteworthy, especially considering Deshaun Watson's suspension was for less time than Calvin Ridley's, and this man is conveniently coming back to play in his first game of the season against his former team, the Texans. Go figure, go make that money, NFL. Nice work. Not. Anyway, from here, I want to talk about some players I'll be watching for tomorrow on both sides of the ball. Remember, the first team is going to be playing for up to one full half, though I'm sure some key players like Mahomes, Kelsey, Chris Jones, if he plays, Frank Clark, Justin Reid, etc., will not play that long. But what I'm going to be looking for when I watch the first team is the offensive line, first off, to see how Orlando and Wiley hold the ends of the line in particular. I'm not really worried about the inside trio of Tooney, Humphrey, and Cray Smith. They are fine for the most part, but last game, both Orlando and Wiley lost reps in their one series with Mahomes, resulting in a tipped ball and no TD because of Orlando. I know they scored 2 plays later, but still, beside the point. And then Mahomes got nailed a few plays before that because of Andrew Wiley. So I'll be watching the O-line for sure, and after that, I'm still going to be watching the O-line when the starters are pulled because outside of Nick Allegretti and maybe 1 or 2 more, I did not see too much promise from the depth from the second and third team O-line against the Bears, and that includes Darian Kennard, the 5th-round rookie from this year's draft. And then next up, I'm going to watch the running back room and see how many snaps CEH plays. Then who plays next? Is it Jerick McKinnon, though I know he was just recently back from a minor hamstring tweak, or is it the rookie Isaiah Pacheco? And if so, how many reps are these guys getting? CEH, McKinnon, Pacheco. My next question from there would be, when does Ronald Jones enter the picture? Is it after Mahomes is pulled and Buechele is in? Will Pacheco be pulled as well before we see Ronald Jones at all? These are things I'll be looking for, but regardless, this is a must-play very well game for Ronald Jones II. He needs to show some explosiveness, maybe even break off a couple of big runs. I know he's going to be with the second team O-line, but it doesn't matter. He has to find a way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see this man in with the ones. I think it would be very helpful to see, but I'm not the coach, nor do I have any hair on my head, or a soul for that matter, so what do I really know? The last running back I'm curious in watching is Derek Gore. Can he bounce back and perform better than last week? I sure do hope so, because last week he had 2 easy dropped passes and a fumble. So not good at all. Next up, I'll be watching the receivers, Sky Moore and Justin Watson in particular, who are in theory going to be getting more reps with the first team, with Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster out of this game. Mecole Hardman may play, but I really hope they don't let him and just allow him to rest that little groin spasm. I also want to see how DeRuse Fountain, Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, and Cornell Powell play as well. Powell in particular had a bit of a rough game last week, a very easy dropped pass, but these guys are the ones in question for me. Who will stand out and make their mark, as that wide receiver 6 spot is still being fought for, though at the moment I feel DeRuse Fountain has the current edge. And looking at the tight end room, I'm going to be watching Noah Gray as well as Jody Fortson, especially with Blake Bell out and still injured. I think Noah Gray may step up and attempt to fill in for Bell, though I'm not 100% sure. But the question also is, Jody Fortson, now that he's healthy, when is this man going to play and how are they going to use him? Will he play with the ones in Mahomes? Because prior to his injury at training camp, he was playing with the ones, and then when he came back from injury, like 10 days later, he was getting more reps in with the 2s and the 3s. So will we see him with the ones or possibly with Buechele a bit later? I am ever so curious. And as far as the defensive side of the ball goes, I want to watch that D-line work, especially if Chris Jones is sat this game due to the back spasm he sustained the other day in practice. How will Frank Clark, Carlos Dunlap, Mike Dana, and George Karlaftis look on the edge? Karlaftis, again, is one I will be keen on watching in particular to see if he stands out as much this week as he did last week. I also would like to see more from Malik Herring and Joshua Kando on the edge, but also players on the D-line like the newly added and very tiny Danny Shelton, as well as Taylor Stallworth and Azur Kamara, 2 notable standouts to me from last week's game. And for linebackers, of course, I want to see Bolton and Gay play. That rhymed, but we already know what they can do. So ideally, I'd like to see them pulled a bit early, like they're going to pull Mahomes, and others that need to be protected early, and then see how the others handle themselves. Somebody like Leo Chanel, for example, will he get any reps in with the first team? And then again, I'm curious to see if he shines later in the game like he did last week. I also would like to see more from Jermaine Carter, as I'm not sure he's edging out Elijah Lee at the moment. Next, I want to look at the corners and see how Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson perform under what I would consider some more talented wide receivers than the Bears. Can the 7th rounder Watson perform as well as he did last week? Can Joshua Williams continue to show his potential in coverage? Of course, I want to see the 1st rounder Trent McDuffie as well. Will he be as much of a blanket as he was last week? And will he please not receive any punts? And another cornerback to note, this will also be Rashad Fenton's first game back, I believe. I don't think he played last week. And so that'll be interesting to see my perceived to be CB3 out on the field for the first time since his shoulder surgery. And as far as safeties go, I want to see Brian Cook people out on the field again, and also see how Justin Reid continues to lead the defense in his 2nd game with the team. And I also want to remind you that 5 more players will need to be cut by Tuesday, August 23rd, thinning the roster down from 85 to 80. So 5 players will literally be fighting for their jobs this weekend. And this is where I want to pass the question off to you guys. Who are you most excited to see play tomorrow? And who are some people you think are in jeopardy of being cut if they do not play great against the Washington football team Commanders Redbeards? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let's fight about it down there like children fight over Chick-fil-A nuggets in the drive-thru. Make sure to leave a bearded comment or a super thanks to potentially be featured in an upcoming vid. Like and sub for more bearded content, and then check out this video here, which is a snap count analysis from last week's game by the Scrambling Armchair. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?